Welcome to A Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next. We have a cat on the floor. He's currently glaring at me. He'll probably chime in. It's a warm summer day, so the window's open, so if you hear some birds, enjoy the ambiance. And we're just going to get into it. I have, I think, 4 books that I've finished, 3 of which I talked about last week. I'm in the middle of some great things. I have some exciting plans on the horizon. I have a really fun book haul. At least I am incredibly excited. I just came back home from the bookstore. I had a really productive, good day at work. I'm finally awake. I had some really bad insomnia earlier this week, so being awake is just, like, amazing. It's just amazing when compared to how drastically exhausted I was earlier this week. That's right, Putao. I was so tired. Anyways, so starting with Dragonhaven. I buddy read this with Ben, Grace, and Stephanie. Per usual, an amazing buddy read. It was a really fun climactic ending. I personally really love the character relationship developments we get to explore and the commentary that is both very unique to this world and its society, but how you can expand that into our own world and discussions. I went down an unhealthy rabbit hole of looking at low Goodreads reviews and the written ones that people have out there. And it made me so angry. Like, I was getting very enraged. Yes, Putao, enraged. This cat's about to hit the tripod. Let's go. So if we're in a different position, it's because the cat hit the tripod. Are you going to sit down? Okay, Dragonhaven. So I went down this rabbit hole. I looked at some Goodreads stuff. I didn't like it. Mainly because there is heavy, mature conversations about relationships, about consequences to actions, about consent, about body autonomy. These are all very nuanced, important themes for many age groups. I would argue that these are still important themes for young adult readers. But in the specific reviews I was reading, they were comparing the relationships in this book to, like, bad, melodramatic young adult relationships. So not like the quality young adults books that actually go through this stuff, but like Sarah J. Maas books or something like that. And I'm just like, what? How do you read this and not, like, and unsurprisingly, a lot of these low-star reviews were not written by women. Like, I think a 3-star review is totally reasonable. If you do not love the project of these stories, it's not particularly fast-paced, that's fine. It's when the reviews specifically point out that they don't like the drama of the relationships and that it was just, I don't know, that it, like, literally when they refer to it being like a melodramatic young adult book, I'm just like, guys, did you miss the point? Did you miss the conversations about consent, about the consequences of your actions? Like, where are we reading the same book? And do you just not care, like a lot of the male characters in this book, about what the women are having to go through in society and biologically? Because that's a huge thing in the books. Now, if you don't like this book because it's not very fast-paced and because it is just focused on these character interactions, you know, and you are just like, I don't want to be that focused on character interactions and development, I want to actually go on a quest journey, then fair. I think that's a fair complaint. But anyways, I went down this rabbit hole. It made me angry. This is not the best Robin Hobb I've read, but it's by far not the worst. And I'm just, like, baffled. I'm absolutely baffled. And yeah, that's my piece. Dragonhaven was fun. I'm excited to continue on with Rainwild next month. Another one I finished is Trust. So I finished the next half of Trust. I think I was 50% of the way through last week. We had our book club discussion. It was a really good discussion. If you have a chance to read this and discuss it with a group of people, I think it's great for that, especially because even when people didn't love the book, they loved discussing it. Like, we really loved seeing what we all took away from it, especially because the whole purpose of the work is, here are 4 versions of the same story. Figure out what you think is the truth, and why do you trust that as the truth? You were really meant to engage with the material. And it's written in a very accessible way by design. Like, the first part is a commercial piece of fiction that's meant to be scandalous about this couple in New York. And then the second part's meant to be just one of those memoirs that are meant to, you know, fly off the shelves. The third part is probably a lot of people's favorites. It wasn't my favorite because I liked the mystery of the work. I liked being like, yeah, what is the truth? I liked piecing that together. And the third part was part of revealing that, but was focused on stuff that, for me, I think although it thematically fit, felt disjointed, but that's just me personally. And then the fourth part is just like this diary entry of one of the characters. And it's interesting because in some ways you're led to believe that that fourth part might be the truth. And there's definitely truth in it, but also there's a bias in every single part of this work. So it's a fascinating project. I think the author accomplished what he meant to. And I think that's just really interesting to look at. Is it a favorite of all time? No. But I enjoyed my time. It was weirdly a page turner for me. if I can say that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to read anything this author ever puts out. Like, I read his 2 works, and they've both been great for me. I don't know if this will live in my head as often as Into the Distance does, but I really enjoyed it. The third one I'll talk about that I finished is Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. I said I was going to put a short one in, and I did. And actually finished this on my commute home today, so my thoughts are still very fresh. That's not a pun. It's just, they're very, like, just happened. This is fascinating. I think Akwaeke Emezi has this beautiful writing style. And the reason why I say that is I was very tired on Monday, like I said at the start of this video, like extremely exhausted. And so I was listening to the audiobook, which Akwaeke Emezi voices themselves. And normally audiobooks, especially if I'm immersion reading, I speed it up till it's at my eye speed. But in this case, I let the audiobook slow me down quite substantially. Like, I listened to it even when immersion reading at 2 times speed. And it was just lovely. I really liked following the cadence that Akwaeke Emezi chose and being guided through this, I think, pseudo-autofiction work. A lot of it's over my head. A lot of it required a lot of going-with-itness from me. But I also was fine with it because I was engaged. I mean, that's what I come to reading for, right? Is I just want to be engaged. Maybe if I learn something, that's great. Maybe if there are just sentences that resonate with me, also awesome. There's a lot of this that I can't relate to. There's a lot of it that I see people in my life could relate to. There were definitely sentences near the end that I'm like, oh, I do relate to that. So it had all of that. And I enjoyed, it's particularly focusing on Obanje. And that's a part of Nigerian culture. And how that relates to our main character, who has all of these spirits within her. And it's a really hard thing to talk about. I think I was prepared for something very heavy, which it is. There are things that happen in here that I think could have been really difficult for me if we didn't have this distance or separation, because most of the perspectives are not from Ada, the main character. They are from the spirits within her who are used to protect her, to distance her from what's happening. And so I think that helped me be distant from the atrocious acts that happen to this character and the very dark places that she goes. So I was just able to be a witness and observe things, and it was just a beautifully sad experience, but it does end in a bittersweet place. I don't know. I don't know who to recommend this to, but it definitely hit me in a way I wasn't expecting to this week. And, you know, it worked for me when I was awake. It worked with me when I was tired, especially because, like, some of its ethereal, dreamlike qualities, I think, work when my brain really wasn't trying to connect dots. It was just like, yeah, I'll vibe with it. I'll just go with it. I don't need to understand. Like, the goal for me reading this was not to understand. It was just to witness and observe and hear someone's truth, I guess. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to keep reading Akwaeke Emezi. This is my second work by them. I have 2 more on my shelf. I know there's a bunch more out there. So, yeah, this is great. And then the last book I finished was The Veiled Throne. Ah, so fun. So good. I mean, I definitely will just, like, dovetail into what am I currently reading, because, like, basically the night after I finished The Veiled Throne, I did start Speaking Bones. It's with my cute bookmarks. I just thought it looked really good with it. But I'm going to put up a picture because this is heavy. But I'm about this part far into Speaking Bones, which is the first part, which is, like, I think 13%. Yeah, I'm on part 2, Thunder Awakened Forest. It's definitely one of those things where I finished book 3, and I mean, it was a good ending to a part, because these are broken into parts, like usually 3 or 4 parts in each book. And, like, I was talking to Tammy, because that's all I do. It's like I read the book and I just yell things at Tammy on Instagram. that's what I've been doing with this Dandelion Dynasty read. Is like, I'm not really buddy reading it with anyone at the moment. I'm just yelling my thoughts at Tammy. And so I get to the end and I'm like, I finished it, and she's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, well, it's an ending by definition. I'm glad I have the next book, because it's like, it's not really an ending. There are so many open threads that you don't get concluded. And I understand, like, you know, it was one of those things where you really cannot publish a 2,000-page book. We're truly not there as a society. Like, it's just not happening. So, you know, if you have to end it somewhere, it wasn't a bad ending. It felt like the ending midway through a season or at the end of a season. It's like, cool, I'm glad I have the next one to pick up, because I want to continue. And I'm so happy because the first part of this book continues with one of those threads that I'm like, guys, I need it. I need it. Also, things that I can talk about, that even though, like, I'm in the 4th book in a huge series. Ken Liu does this thing where he takes ideas that I think about, like, all the time. Well, no, you know, either just existing in the world or because of a nonfiction thing or a podcast, and then he puts it in his fantasy and is just, like, thinking about it. So, like, for example, we have lots of cultures, and we're exploring a lot of how cultures evolve, what happens when cultures clash, stuff like that. And in general, one of the things I wasn't expecting is one of the cultures really doesn't understand farming and thinks farming is taking advantage of the land. And I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. We're discussing how to coexist with the land and how that is done differently by different people. And like, I love that type of question. You don't get that question a lot in fantasy, and not as much of like a cultural focus, which it definitely is here. We also have my favorite trope. I hope we keep pursuing it. Learning the origins of things. I love learning the origins of things. That's the type of info dump I thrive on. Like, literally give it to me all the time. Give me the entire origin story. Like, if you liked book 4 of Wheel of Time because of like the revealing of the origin, I just had a chapter like that in Speaking Bones, and I was like, yes, this is so cool. It's so cool. So I'm having a really good time. I don't think there's anything else I can really say because I'm in the 4th book of a series, but I'm having a great time. And so now, what am I going to read next? Because currently I'm only reading Speaking Bones. I haven't quite gotten back into the short story collections just because I haven't been in the headspace. And I'm waiting for the headspace to, like, show up. Like, every once in a while I'll pick it up and I'll try and read some of The Gods of Wanted. I think that's what it's called. And it's not speaking to me, and I can tell I need to be in a certain headspace for that author's voice, and I haven't even tried Rock Eaters yet. But maybe next week, because I'm working from home next week, and usually when I work from home, I have more short story time. So that's potentially on the horizon, are the short story collections I mentioned last week. But I also have 2 sci-fis, and I think, and they're very different lengths. So I really enjoyed immersion reading Freshwater on my commute, and I still have the rest of my work week. You're seeing this on Friday, but I still have the rest of my work week to go into work, and I like having an audiobook that I can listen to and then read when I'm on the train and then listen to when I get off the train. I like that. It feels good this week. It's where my brain's at. And so I have the audiobook and the Kindle and the physical of Dark Age, this monster. Should probably get to it. I think we're going to have the live show for this either the 2nd or 3rd weekend in July, potentially, if you were planning your reading life. But I might slowly pick this up, even though the idea of reading this and this at the same time, I don't know if it's a good one. Let's just put it that way. That seems bad. But like I said, this is the only one I have that I kind of want to immersion read. So if I'm really feeling that type of reading experience, I might do that. And this is a long read anyways. Like, it's not like a page-turny time. I also have, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, The Mimicking of Known Successes, which is a novella and a mystery. And I could also immersion read this. Like, the audiobook is always available, and I tend to get on with Malka Older better when I do audio. So this might actually be what I do now that I've talked this through on camera. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm spending most of my time reading Speaking Bones because, you know, it's huge, and that's what I want to be doing. So if I ever want to be doing something else, I have other books on my TBR, so that's what I'll do. And now into the very, very exciting book haul. It makes me so happy. First is a physical arc that I got from Tor.com. This is the Djinbot of Shantiport, I'm not sure. This is by Samit Basu, who wrote The City Inside, which I read last year and really liked. I think this is very different than that. I mean, I'm sure there's probably overlap in the authorial voice, but this is a retelling of Aladdin in space. So that sounds very fun. I didn't know I needed that to, like, we came home from seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last week, and I saw this book, and I was like, oh, I forgot I did ask for a physical arc of this. And I open it up, and I'm just showing it to Ryan, because, like, this cover, I don't know if you can tell, this cover just looks so fun. This looks like such an adventurous, vibrant time, and I really liked the writing of The City Inside, so really liking the writing of that, maybe having it with a more traditional sci-fi plot, I think could be really fun. And I read the entire back of it to Ryan, and I normally don't read the backs of books, and I was just like, oh, this really is an Aladdin retelling, because Tasha Suri's on the front, sparkles with the wondrous and wild possibilities of Aladdin in space. And I read the back and I was like, yeah, that sounds like what this is going to be. I don't think it's the start of a series. I could be very wrong, but it's like 360 pages, so excited to have that. But the most exciting part, and I went to my bookstore today, the one downside of using your local bookstore is that when books come out on Tuesday, if you want to browse and buy them for yourself, you have to wait till Wednesday because they don't stock their shelves really until Tuesday night. Like, if I walked in on Tuesday and asked for these books, they would get them for me from the back of the shop. But if I want to pick off the shelf, I have to wait, which is my own problem. But these books came out. They are reprintings, and I have The Best of All Possible Worlds and The Galaxy Game by Karen Lord. And like, look at this. For reference, this is the new cover, this is the old cover. Much better glow up. And this has 2 new short stories in it, which is, well, okay, I was gonna buy this regardless, because having a floppy paperback of one of my favorite books of all time, yes, I mean, like, look at this. It's a glorious flop. This is so colorful. I mean, I'm still so happy to have my hardback. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's going nowhere. But I'm very, very excited to have this, and for the new short stories. And then this is its pseudo-sequel, companion sequel, The Galaxy Game, which this is the new cover. This is the old cover. Truly, biggest glow-up of all time. And I think, yeah, this also has 2 bonus short stories. So I have 4 new short stories in this world, and then I have, I think, my arc down here of the Blue Beautiful world. So I have my lovely, lovely Karen Lord set right here. The only downside is I'm pretty sure these are only going to be printed in paperback, which fair, but the new version is going to be in hardback. But I'm going to get it anyways. Or I might get the UK hardback if it matches my other UK hardbacks, and then wait for the US to come out in paperback. Regardless, I'm just very excited. And if you haven't heard me gush about the Best of All Possible Worlds, welcome. I'm sure you haven't been here long, because I swear I do it like every month. I do have a standalone review for this book. I love it with all my heart, and my patrons and I are going to buddy read it next month, which means they'll get a spoiler vlog with all my thoughts. But I will also, if there is enough interest outside of patrons, I will make a buddy read chat in my public Discord, because I am all for pushing the Karen Lord love. Truly, I think she is one of the most underrated sci-fi fantasy authors out there. And her writing just works really well for my brain, so I understand a lot of that is subjective. But she's one of those authors that every sentence she writes is like very comfortable butter in my head, and I really love it. Although the Galaxy Game, I'm still working on visualizing whatever's happening in here. Because I'm excited to reread this because I don't know what it was, but I read it when I was in a slumpy space 2 years ago, and it really came through. Even though, again, I don't know what this is about. It's fine, though. It's fine. I'm just very happy. I'm just so happy. It brings me endless, endless joy. So if you didn't know, these are available. And if you had ebooks, like if you purchased ebooks, you can actually update them for free to get the short story bonuses. You don't have to buy new versions or anything like that. So just as a heads up. Also, the back of this says The Natural Heiress to Octavia Butler and Ursula Gwynn. And I agree. Having read both of those. Ooh, Nayla Hopkinson also has a quote. Reads like smooth jazz comfort food, deceptively familiar and easy going down, but subtly subversive. That's true. That's 110% true, Nayla Hopkinson. I agree. So, yeah. All right, this video is getting away from me, but I'm just in a very good mood and just like, I'm surrounded by so many wonderful books. Let me know what you're reading, doing, watching this weekend. We are probably going to see Into the Spider-Verse. Is that what it's called? The new Spider-Verse movie. I actually don't know what the names are. It's going to be one of those trilogies where I'm not going to know any of the names because they're all something Spider-Verse. Like, is the third one going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse? I don't know. But I'm excited because I've been wanting to see it for a while. We just saw Guardians last weekend because we knew it would be easier to get tickets because it's been out for long enough. Also, Guardians was unfair because if you don't know, there's a lot of animal stuff in it, which I did know. I just didn't know they were going to name one of the animals Delilah, which is my cat's name. And if you don't know, my cat's like 18 and a half years old. So, like, you know, we deal with her mortality daily. She's doing great. I updated my patrons this week because if you don't know, any money I make from my YouTube and my Patreon, I spend on my cats. That's what I do. Because they're old now and require, special food and meds, and it adds up. More vet visits than normal. So any of the extra cash I get from doing this channel, I just put towards them because, they're my children, I guess. And they deserve it. They truly do. So for those who do support me that way, always, always appreciative. And if you were ever wondering what I spend my money on, that's it. So Delilah's doing fine, but the key is that I was not prepared and I was upset. That movie was emotionally manipulative, but also in a great way. But if you don't want to be emotionally manipulated, I would steer clear of that movie, to say the least. If you don't want to leave a comment, but you want me to know you're here, let's leave. We've already left a world recently because I talked about these books on Tuesday. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I have no sense of what you should do. Speaking bones. Bones? I feel like I do bones often, but I know that's an emoji, so we'll do bones for speaking bones. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.